Hey everybody, I'm Dee Lisa. I'm the dream doula. What does that mean? I help you into your tap into your intuition to manifest your best life. Today I have Justine. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Justine Reiss. I am the empowered voice. And what does that mean? I help you find the connection between your inner voice and your outer voice. I'm a trained and very experienced 2 decades of recording commercials, video games, more recently, a lot of audiobooks, and training other people how to bring more emotional tone into their words, specifically for voiceover. And then I have pivoted to help really people, CEOs, sales teams, and women in transition just really connect with where they have felt shut down. Why are they disconnected from their voice, their real voice, and their inner voice to connect those two authentically and have, I like to say, like I said, visualize, which can be very helpful through dream work, vocalize, and monetize.
I love that so much. And before we hit record, you were talking about how, excuse me, how you lost your voice as a kid, or
Yeah.
somebody shut you down, didn't let you speak. I was thinking recently about being in the third grade. I remember my teacher. I remember I was standing up and I was supposed to read something. Speak a little louder. I was so embarrassed and so shy. And then the principal came in and she said, "Keep reading." And I was just, I don't know why, I was just traumatized. And later on, now I talk all the time. I talk online, I talk in front of groups, I don't care.
Right.
But there's probably a third grader in me that's a little bit terrified still.
It's so funny that you offered that story up without me even asking you, because I have a story from fourth grade that's a little different and a little funny, but I have even just recently uncovered something deeper about the story. And what it is was that I turned in a creative writing project that I thought was adorable. And this was in the 70s, so I'm aging myself a little bit, but and it was called The Sexy Snowflake. And my teacher said that is inappropriate. She called me out. I don't know if she called me out in front of the class, but she definitely called me up and said that was inappropriate use of the word. She was calling my mother. Now, my mother had my back, but I remember it just like you remember this. And maybe you wouldn't have accessed that story so quickly had I not said something from your childhood, but it often happens at home or in the classroom where you've said something that you think is totally fine. There was nothing raunchy. It wasn't like porn, the story, like a little snowflake that had to step on her tippy toes to kiss the big snowflake. But I started to think about, first of all, what was going on in my life at that time, which I guess you're like 9 or 10 when you're in fourth grade.
Mm.
And this will tie into my bigger story. But what had happened right around that age is my parents came to my brother and I and told us they were going to have an open marriage.
Oh, too much
Right. I know
information.
this is a little TMI on a lot of levels because we're not going to be able to unpack all of this. Okay.
I
But
mean, too
they,
much information for the parents
oh,
to share with kids at that age. Like, what? What?
of
What?
course, as an adult, I have realized too much information, particularly for the younger girl in the house. I have an older,
Yeah.
I don't think this information affected him the way it affected me. And I didn't realize it literally until probably like the second half of my marriage, how that affected me in relationships and my body and all these kinds of things. But I hadn't put that together until I recently found this journal of my mother. So my father just passed away and my mother passed away 2 years before. This will tie into the dream at the very end. So I've unpacked a lot of stuff. I even wrote a piece in a book that got published called Shine Your Soul Light. I wrote a story called The Rainbow Roadmap to Forgiving, which was about my forgiveness for my mother. And I finished that chapter while I was in their house under my rainbow sheets. And she was literally dying upstairs, but I got to spend all this time with her. So I had already forgiven her for this thing. This really was the beginning of how I resented her for my whole life. How could you have told me this? That this thing that screwed up my whole life. My marriage ended, it's your fault. and got out of this sort of blame and had to sort of come to the fact like, okay, they did the best they could with their tools. We can sit there and go, did they or didn't they? Accept what is, right? And love this woman for who she was as a trailblazer, I came to find out she really didn't want this open marriage either. Again, lots to unpack with that. But in the fifth grade, the way I can tie this back around to some great choices my parents did make in the fifth grade. So I was in a gifted program, which was not a good place for me because it was with a bunch of really smart people. And I was gifted as an artist, I think, early on. But back in those days, and it may still be similar, you took an IQ test. And if you passed by a certain number, you got
Right.
to the gifted program. Well, what
Right.
parent doesn't want their kids to go to the gifted program? So, of course, they sent me off. I was the youngest in the class, late November birthday, all of that. So, in fifth grade, I was not allowed to be in the school play. All I wanted to do was be in the school play. Didn't really care about school because my grades weren't good enough. So, at that point, after the fourth grade, my first memory of being shut down for my creativity, now my fifth grade, I'm like, well, I'm not smart or allowed to be creative. So what am I going to do? I will be pretty, right? And honestly, I think I stayed on the track of being popular. If I can't do anything else, I'll just be popular, right? I won't pay attention in school because I'm not smart. So why even bother? I won't be creative because I'm too terrified now, right? I'm too terrified to step out and be in the theater department. So between sophomore and junior year, my mom really pushed me to go to drama camp. And I was like, I am not going to drama camp. And she was like, yes, you are going. I'm like, what if I hate it? She said, you can come home. And that is where I think I found my voice. I started to find my voice because I was in an environment that felt safe. So I'm a big believer in creating spaces of safety. And that isn't just around speaking up. That's around just creating the space. And then you can see what happens. But I went back to school. I did plays. My popular friends were still my friends. They
Yes.
even, I got to be friends with lots of different groups of people. So that whole story to say, we have to look back at those things because they'll come back again. Just like you just remembered that. I mean, I don't know, maybe you thought of that before, but when we really think about it, it might be something that happened at home. It might be for men, you know, don't cry, or people that, if they grew up in a military environment or whatever, like, but to go back and look at those things so we can, we call it shadow work, which I'm sure you're familiar with that term. It's not necessarily trauma, right? The sexy snowflake was not traumatic. The open marriage, a little traumatic. So it was just funny because recently I put those two things together.
So the sexy snowflake was after your parents said they were going to open the marriage?
Well, it only just recently occurred when I saw this diary entry because for a long time, I kept saying I was 12. And then I'm like, no, that can't be right because my brother would have been 14. And so when I read this journal of my mother's, because she has lots of journals, my mom was a big journaler, but they were mostly like travel logs with
Mm.
fantastic info. I mean, I could publish these things as travel books. It's like we went to Ubud in Bali, and then they were fascinated. I'm like, where's the juicy stuff, mom? And this was crazy, but my dad just passed away, and I had a box from the storage unit of a bunch of photos that had been packed up by the movers because we sold my parents' house last summer. So I finally opened, I'm like, what is in here? And I was like, oh, these are all old photos. These are great. Like, black and whites of great grandparents and this and that. And at the very bottom, there was one journal in this box. And it was leather bound and literally smelled. My mom used to wear cucumber perfume, had that smell still. It's
Wow.
wild. And it was dated. And from the date, she was talking about something that happened 2 years ago and all how hard it was for my parents because it was not a trip in the park, this open marriage thing. That's what they wanted it to be, which is why they told us. They thought, oh, that's how other people are doing it. Let's try this. Didn't work. Lots of fighting between them. So when she referenced the date, like, oh, this happened 2 years ago, I was like, okay, then that was the sexy snowflake because it was about when I was about 9. So there you go. That's how I put it together.
Wow. That's so cool. So when you're helping people with their voice, no
Mhm.
matter what they're using your voice for, they're in the corporate world or they're an actor or they're doing whatever they're doing, you help them notice stories like this that we just unpacked
This is
that
this is
might
a,
have made them not want to really be who they are.
right.
Hmm.
Because if it happened in the past, unless you've done this kind of work on some level, and there's a lot of other ways to do it, but when you really, really connect it to your voice that comes out of you, I think it's our biggest superpower. We take it with us everywhere we go, hopefully until the day we die, unless you have some kind of, trauma to the vocal cord or something like that.
Yeah.
It is our communication box, right? Um, or if maybe if you're deaf, right? It's a different situation. That's a different situation. And I can't address that necessarily. But your voice is so powerful. And it is, to me, the secret window to your soul. And you will notice, well, I notice, and you probably do on a conscious or unconscious level, when you hear a meek voice that's just not grounded,
Yes.
there's fear coming out almost all the time. Like some people's voices, have you ever been with someone who almost sounds like they're going to cry all the time, even if they're not upset? They just have like a weak voice, and it's stuck. It can get stuck so there's energy, I think, that can go
Yeah.
through, but there's
Yeah.
also just emotion. And often when I was telling you earlier about, like, I might say the top of the head, or if it's somebody more spiritual, I might say the crown chakra. Think of the voice coming out of here, and think about physically what are you doing when you're trying to create excitement. So this is how I connected it to voiceover, because in voiceover we don't have the physical, we only have the voice. So we have to kind of magnify what I call the 3 Ps, which are pitch, pace, and physicality. So your physicality could be the smiling or opening up your eyes or eyebrows or hands. If I have this thing down here, you're not seeing any of this, right? You're only hearing it, but it does connect to the I think it very much connects to the speaking voice for speakers as well. Now we could be overdoing it and maybe overacting. We don't want to do that. So it's got to create reality, authentic reality, which is why AI voices can't do it.
Oh, when I hear something that's AI put together, it just makes me insane. I can't do it. I'm like, oh, really wanted to hear this message, but somebody made it with AI. It's not vibing with me. When a long time ago, I was a real estate broker.
Yeah,
And when I was a baby real estate broker, this will date me, we used to cold call people. So I
right.
go, and we were taught that we should stand up, look in a mirror, and smile.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's bullshit.
I know, but
No, if
people that
you
have done
do
phone
it,
work, you're right, telemarketers, they were told. And you just think about it very simply when you call up a doctor's office and they're like, Dr. Smith's office, can I,
hello. Yeah.
right? Versus Dr. Smith's office, how can I help you?
All
And the
they
same,
have to do is smile.
right.
And if you both smile and stand up, it's totally different energy.
Yeah. And what's fun now is coaching coaches that are pitching their own programs, because
Right.
this is stuff that coaches can really use. They're really doing commercials for themselves. So I can take the exact same curriculum that I teach in commercial voice acting and teach it to coaches. Little things make huge differences, like smile. But of course, you don't want to paste a smile on your face all the time. That's not authentic. But
True.
having that change, that transformation from, you know, using your pace to say something that's a little offhand to something that's more heart centered, and actually maybe placing your hands on your, like, releasing that oxytocin
Mm.
as you're talking. Um, and there's some very simple things that high level coaches have gained from working with me or someone who does similar work that can just get the message across more authentically, and really the whole point is connecting to the audience. So
Right.
that's where monetized comes in. When you can really connect to your audience, they might be more interested in what you have to sell or say or support. Let's just say support. Let's say it's not even you're supporting a cause. um Same.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is so fascinating. And so you were a drama kid,
As a drama
and
kid.
that's how you got into this whole thing.
Yeah.
But that was a few years back. So how
Yes.
did you get, tell us a little bit, tell us a short version of your life story up until now, from doing
Okay.
drama as a
Yeah.
junior senior
Yeah.
to finding your voice and helping people.
Yeah. So, yeah, so the story is actually real simple. I went to drama camp, came back to school, became a theater major. And I always say if your kids want to become a theater major, get a business major too. I think we're better, but we're not great in academia. We'll either like teach you how to be a great artist, but then you can't sell your art, or teach you
Right.
how to be a great actress, but then you have no idea how to like the business tools you need of great reels and things like that. So same with voiceover. But my first job out of college was at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair. And I had to learn all these dialects, and I was Julia Miller, the Miller's daughter. So immediately I was thrown into becoming other people for long periods of time, which is not a normal acting gig,
Yeah.
but it was great fun back in the day. We did a lot of improv. Um, and from there, I got hired at a new theme park that was opening, which was also a similar creating the illusion of Hollywood Boulevard. So we were all like, production assistants or the starlet or the gossip columnist. So we had to create these roles. And I created a word called opportune. So I believe we are always in a series of what do we want to be prepared to do so that if an opportunity comes along, we can go do it. So yes, preparation meets opportunity and you have an opportune. If an opportunity comes along, like for a voiceover job, but you've never trained as a voiceover artist and you don't have equipment or whatever, there goes the opportunity.
Right.
While I was there and I did stunt work, which a lot of people, I always forget to mention it, but it's sort of, I was in the Indiana Jones stunt show. I met someone who was moving to California to do voiceover. And I'm like, what's voiceover? And he's like, I'm going to be the next Mel Blanc. And I'm like, who's Mel Blanc? So for those of you that don't know, Mel Blanc did all the Looney Tunes characters. And my friend moved to California, and one of his first jobs was Daffy Duck in Space Jam.
How
So
cool.
it was really to me realizing like not only was this voiceover thing like a real thing, but creating a vision, naming it, and then you go do it. Like, why not? That's manifesting. You know,
Right on.
talent
Yeah.
had the preparation had to go into that. Wasn't willy-nilly, hey, I want to do this thing. He prepared for it and he nailed it. And he's one of the most successful, wide range voice actors out there. His name's D. In my classes, I don't mention his name, but I'll mention it here. D. Bradley Baker. So when I moved to LA, because I was coming back to California anyway, and I took voiceover classes, and I found success in it. But with commercials, and I had Moxie, and I worked at a casting office for a while. I just knocked on the door. I'm like, hey, would you hire me to do something? And so I got myself in the middle of it. These places don't exist anymore. Now I'm in a home studio, right? So back in those days, I just sucked up all the information I could get. And I put myself in a casting office where I was directing the actors, and then I would get hired because I was prepared. So if ladies didn't show up for their auditions, they would throw me into the booth. They knew I could deliver, and then I would book a lot of jobs. And that's kind of how that evolved. And I think that's kind of how I got my coaching experience because I was directing other people to make their auditions better. So I learned how to communicate things that were only because they were communicated to me, like add a little wink there. Take a, sometimes it wasn't direct things like just take a pause. It was take a beat, it was acting really. And so I think that turned me into somebody who liked to direct. And then when voiceover became more of an at-home industry, and actually I went through breast cancer. This is kind of the truth of the matter. I had very early stage breast cancer. And it kind of just took me out of, when something like that happens to you, if anybody out there is listening, it's just your life has to kind of redirect for a while. And so right at that time, people were starting to have more home studios and at-home coaching. And I got hired by this company, Such a Voice, to coach. And I got to do it from home. And I noticed as I coached, I booked more jobs because as you teach, you become the student again. And I really found something else that I loved. And so switching after doing audiobooks and things like that, and getting a meditation facilitator, I realized everything for me is about the voice. How can I transfer what I know as a voiceover artist and a coach to everybody else that needs to use their voice to communicate something or sell something or support something. And it just became more interesting to me. So now I do both. I mean, I still record a lot of books and other things.
It's fascinating to think that unless you're nonverbal, you're using your voice.
Yeah,
You're
right.
using your voice either in your job or in your
Yes.
life. And I
Yes.
believe that everything we say is a spell.
Mm.
Everything we say is manifesting our world. And so be
Mm.
careful what you say. Not only be careful what you think about and don't believe all your thoughts, but what you say out loud is so powerful that most people don't even know it or
Yes.
believe it.
And you can speak things into reality.
Yes,
And and just like you said, if you're where your energy flow, where your thoughts go, energy flows. So where your
yes,
thoughts go, your tendency, your words will flow, and
yes.
is what will happen. Just like my friend, I want to be the next Mel Blanc.
Yeah,
Well,
and
he couldn't have
he
found the
was.
Mel Blanc job. The first Mel Blanc job that was offered, he was right there to meet
He's
it.
like, I'm in. I'm
I'm
in.
sorry, but that he manifested that. And so I feel that you are 100% right. And dreams totally play into this. And you know what I'm talking about because if we can, our dreams can manifest reality too. If we're tapped, it's all about tapping in, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And noticing what you're noticing. The first time I really thought about the words we speak being incantation, so to speak, I was with a woman who was teaching class about the words we say. And she said, I knew a person who constantly said, I can't stand it, I can't stand it, I can't stand it. And she broke her ankle. And then she couldn't stand. What? She also taught me that if you say blah, 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 but erases everything that you just said in the first part of the sentence. You should say blah, 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 and.
And yeah, it's like, yes, that's the rule
Yes,
of
and.
improv. The rule of improv.
Yes,
Yes, done. It's not yes, but
yes, and.
because
And
I think I think this is so really interesting. So I completely geek out on this stuff. So I think but sets us up for a defense. It sets us up for I'm going to explain, judge, or defend myself now. And
yeah,
we want to move through the world non-defensive, as non-judgmental as we possibly can be. Although I am a firm believer that our mind it can be judgmental, and we have to be the one to manifest it otherwise, or change gears on it. You know.
yeah. I teach my clients when they're having a thought that they don't want to believe,
Mhm.
they can say, "Oh, let's say, I'm bad at relationships."
Yes.
Maybe that might be true in this moment. You could say, "Up until now,
Yeah. That's
I've been
great.
bad at relationships." And that changes everything that you just said. You're not saying it's true forever.
That's
You're
right.
saying, "Up until now, this has been true. And
And I'm
now
sure
I'm
you've
doing something
heard,
different."
I'm sad, I'm depressed. Instead,
Hmm.
you can say, I feel blank. But I like this one even more. A friend of mine posted this on Instagram like a month ago. Sadness is moving through me,
Oh, that's powerful.
right? Depression is moving through me. Love is moving through me. It's a way for
Oh,
us to detach from the feeling because we can't stay in it. Like if you're falling in love with somebody, sometimes we can get very, magically carried away and you want to just be in that all the time, but we really can't be in it all the time. You can carry it with you. It can move through you, but that doesn't mean you're going to be always there. And I think if we could just mentally not get stuck in the I'm depressed, I'm this, I'm that. So it's the same thing. You're speaking into
right,
reality. I love it.
right.
I love
You're
it.
owning that. Another way to do that, I've been taught, is to say, a part of me feels sad.
Yeah, that's
A
good too.
part of me feels
Part of me.
depressed.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not you.
Right.
There's a part of you
Part of
doing
me. Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's so good.
We agreed to share a dream story before we
Yeah,
log off. So do you have a dream for me?
I do.
Let's hear it.
It's a very recent dream. So, gosh, I almost feel like I should share a dream that I want you to help analyze. That's not so easy, but this is the only one it's on my mind right now. So, my father passed away the night before Thanksgiving, just a few weeks ago. And a few days later, I had a dream about him. And I'm a believer that if your loved ones come to you in your dream, that's a visit of some kind. And he was standing in sort of the combination of a hotel lobby. I was in a hotel that night. So it was sort of like that hotel lobby, but it also looked like the place that he was living in this residence center, sort of like a long white hallway, but not like a sterile hospital or anything. And we had been in the dining hall, or I had been in the dining hall where there was a lot of people around. And I saw him and I said, Dad, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm getting a massage. Like, well, that's great. I want you to meet somebody. And I went back into the dining hall and I got a man that I have met recently, who I've been seeing. And I said, Dad, this is Joe. Joe, this is my dad. And that was my dream.
And then you woke up.
And then I woke up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it seemed real. It seemed like you were really talking to your dad.
Seemed very real. And I think I had thought to myself, and I may have even said this to this gentleman, that my father, a funny story about my dad is one time I was on the phone with, picture George Costanza's parents or a Seinfeld episode, and you can pretty much picture my parents. Okay.
Okay.
And I would call home, it would be like they were Mark and Joan. And Mark, if Mark answered, he's like, Joan. And if Joan answered, Mark. And it's like they had to be on the phone together. I was not really allowed to speak to them one on one, unless for some reason if the other one wasn't there. And then it was the whole thing about, is it on speaker? How do you put the speaker on? So then we'd have to spend 3 minutes figuring out how to make it on the speakerphone. And then my mom, it was after I got divorced, and my mom was very proud of me. And she would tell me all the time. And I think one of the reasons was she might have wanted to live an independent life of my father. Not that they didn't love each other, but I think she saw me taking charge of my life in a way that she wished she had taken charge of her life at some point. So
Yeah.
she's like, Justine, I'm so proud of you. I mean, it was really lovely. I'm so proud of you. Everything you're doing. I'm just so proud of you. I'm just so proud of you. I'm like, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mom. I was driving. And then, Mark, aren't you proud of Justine? Yes, yes. Very proud, very proud, very proud. Okay. We end the conversation and hang up, except they didn't hang up. And my
Uh-oh.
mom continues talking now, right? Seinfeld episode, right? My mom continues talking. She's like, Mark, aren't you just so proud? Yes, I'm proud of her. Yes, I'm proud of her. He goes, but I just wish she had a guy. My mom goes, what do you mean you wish she had a guy? She doesn't need a guy. Oh, well, okay, but I wish she had a guy. Well, I don't know why you say that. She doesn't need a guy. I mean, and then my dad's like, well, what's her name? She is a guy. And she's like, what's her name? And so all of this to say, my dad did not feel that I was complete without a man in my life. And I pretty much have spent 5 years doing some dating, but nobody I would tell him about, nobody I introduced him to. This man I recently met just the beginning of November, and I was already feeling like he was somebody who might be the guy, or the guy that I'd want my dad to meet. And then my dad died. And this guy was here to sort of be with me through, like to show up for me. And I don't think any of it's separated. So it's been a wild November, December. Let me just say that. So,
I bet. And I'm sorry for your loss. And your dad sounds like a character. So your
yes.
parents opened their marriage in the 70s and they stayed married until they both died.
Yes, they did. Mhm.
Wow.
And there's a lot of stories there that I have not told. If anyone listening or you yourself, the book, I wrote a chapter in this book called Shine Your Soul Light. And I am down as an author, so you can look me up, Justine Reiss, and it is a best-selling book, but it's all stories from the soul. And in that book, I talk a little bit about the effects and my resentment towards my mother because of this open marriage and how I came to forgive her. The second part of that, as I told you, is the Rainbow Roadmap to Forgiving. They kept my 14-year-old sheets with rainbows on them. So
Oh,
when we go home to their house in San Francisco, which is not the house I grew up in, these sheets were always there. And my mother ended up dying under the sheet. This is not in the book because it hadn't happened yet. And I ended up burying bringing it to her and surrounding her with it in her grave. And so in her coffin. Um, but yes, they stayed married. But what I found out at the end, and I can talk about this now because my father just died. So there's been I feel some freedom to share some of this, is I think my mother resented him till the day she died. Not that they didn't have a beautiful marriage for much of it. Um, I just vowed that I would not do that. I'm not going to die with any resentment on my heart.
Mm.
So whatever resentment I feel, and this is 12 step too, I really have learned this in 12 step work, which I absolutely love, is to recognize an amends when it needs to be made and make it, or wait till it's appropriate to make it, which it isn't always appropriate ever.
Yeah,
Uh,
sometimes you just have to write the letter and put it in your fireplace.
that's correct. That's correct.
Mm.
So the answer is yes, they stayed married.
Wow.
Now they're together again. And I found out some really beautiful things with this journal that, again, this is after I swear to God, I think my mom directed me like, here's the journal, Justine, that you really need. Because what I did read in there was a lot of love too.
Mm.
So part of their Seinfeld-esqueness was their bickering, you know. But yeah, I'm very plugged in. I was very plugged in with my mom when she died. We became incredibly close. I didn't even cry when she died, not because I wasn't sad. I just felt so connected to her, and I still do. And I was not like that with her in life. So I feel like it
Yeah.
was a huge
Yeah.
blessing that I
I
got to
think
have.
sometimes we can be more connected to our loved ones once they've passed over. Because
I've
I really believe they do come to us in our dreams. That's where we can, unless we're psychic mediums, that's where we can see them and hear them.
Yeah,
And all they want to do when they're on the other side is help us.
yeah,
So I love it that your father came to you to tell you that he sees this guy. He sees
yeah.
Joe.
And yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't know.
you introduced him in the dream,
I
but
know.
because he's on the other side, he already knows.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
It felt like a completion because I wasn't because he did die suddenly. My dad died in a very peaceful way, very different than my mom, which I was
Hmm.
this thing and me going through it with her, which I'm glad for. I'm not glad she suffered a little bit at the end for sure, not as long as other people. My mom was a marathon runner, my mother was a cyclist, and the more she kept losing her ability to do things, the less she wanted to be alive. So
Right.
it wasn't even, and it was breast cancer that ultimately took her. So
Mm.
I'm a big supporter of breast cancer research. My mother was a big environmentalist and women's rights. And one of the other things that I am really involved in is helping girls have menstrual equity to end period poverty. I went to Kenya in October. That's why this whole last quarter of the year has been just wild. I went to Kenya and I brought the Could You Cup with me, and got to bring it and do trainings with girls that were already there. The founder is Christine Denning, and I really am very attached to this movement. So there's a YouTube video I'd love for anyone who's listening to see, and if you are $10 helps a girl with a menstrual cup for 10 years stay in school and not be sex trafficked to get money to buy menstrual pads, because that's actually what's happening. In
Oh,
addition
that's
to them just staying at home and not going to school. So it's both things. So I think mom's proud of me in the way that I'm trying. Service is so important. I didn't know that really. Not that my parents weren't of service. I think they were. I just didn't learn that. It was not something that was really taught to me. And I'm grateful to have the lesson now.
mm. Oh,
Yeah.
I love everything you're doing in the world. It's so fun to have this conversation. So these
Yes.
books behind you are voiceover
Yes,
books you
these are
did?
books that I've narrated. They're not all the books I've narrated, but the cool thing about this one was the first one. It's called How to Make a Life. And actually, there's a poster right there. So you
Oh
can
yeah, I
see
see.
the post. My aunt wrote that book.
What?
At 82, it was published. So it's an inspiration to all. It's never too late. She's a very good writer, and she has always been a writer. And she was a social worker and ran an agency. So she lived a very big life, but her writing is so beautiful. So How to Make a Life. Then she wrote a book called Street Corner Dreams. I gave myself the time to do it during COVID. I never thought I'd do an audiobook because who wanted to read a book? But And then I discovered it was the most fun because I
Hmm.
really got to use my acting chops, especially
Yeah.
with historical fiction.
Yeah.
So I've done Clara's Truth. Walking on Fire was one of my most recent books. I had to speak Greek, not through the whole thing, but there's Greek characters. It's a woman goes to Greece. This one, a woman goes to Poland. This is Polish and Israel and all these different dialects. Um, and the book that I really, really love that just came out that's a quick listen is I think I don't have the book here, but you can see Kvel. It's called Kvel.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I will give you a link if we can that has like all the books that I've done. But Kvel is
Beautiful.
Yiddish word that means to support, to glow over. Kind of like what you're doing by having a podcast. You are glowing over me in a way. You're allowing me to talk about myself. And
Yeah.
I have a podcast too, and I love being the host of the podcast because that's what we get to do. We get to shine the light on other people. But we need more Kvel in the world. I think we need to
We
honor
sure do. We sure do
honor.
because people like you who are doing good in the world, teaching people how to shine, people need to know about you.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's
Oh.
been inspiring just to be on here. And I thought we were just going to have a call today. I'm like, let's talk. Okay, great. Let me put on my lipstick. I'm always ready to, and I always want to be that person that's doing what you're doing. I think it's so beautiful and
Oh.
and so thank you.
Thank you. And so, everybody listening, if you're still listening, thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll put the notes in the show notes of how to find Justine, how to work with her, and how to listen to her beautiful voice in these books.
Or to help you. The other thing I'm really working with now into 2026 is how to help you make your audiobook. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to do it, but because I've trained so many voice talent, I can help find you a narrator. Or if you really, really want to go the route, yeah, I must record it myself. How do you do that or get some coaching around that? So Reiss
Right.
is Reiss, and you can find me on LinkedIn and all the Instagram and all the great places. So
Great. Great. It was so great to have this conversation, and I hope we talk again soon.
I'd love it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.